I am the Sheriff of Riverside County. I have been in law enforcement since 1993. I have 4 adult kids, 4 grandchildren, and happily married to my wife, Denise. I am responsible for all of the law enforcement in the unincorporated areas of the county and then 17 of our cities. So there are more cities in our county, almost double, that have us as their law enforcement provider instead of their own police department. So technically what that means is I am the chief of police of 17 of our cities in Riverside County, in addition to the chief law enforcement officer for the county of Riverside. And that's for law enforcement services. And then outside of that, we're also responsible for our jails. We have 5 jails in the county spread out throughout the county, and about 4,200 inmates that we have on a daily basis. And then court, so interacting between the jails and court is getting inmates back and forth to all of our courts throughout the county. And then we are responsible for the operation of the courts, the security of the courts, those types of things. And then we have a civil bureau, which does all family courts, all of our civil cases with property or, say evictions or things. Those are all the responsibility of the sheriff. And then on top of that, I am the coroner of the county. So my official title is the Sheriff Coroner / Public Administrator. So I am that also. So with that, I'm responsible for all death in the county, for the investigation of all death, particularly not just death that occurs in the law enforcement realm, but any type of suspicious death that could occur naturally or hospital or anything like that. So the Coroner's Bureau is responsible for all death in the county of Riverside. I'm also responsible for search and rescue within the entire county. So anyone that's lost, missing, any of those types of things, it's my responsibility for the investigation or the searching or the rescue of those people. So it's very broad and vast, and there's a lot of moving parts. We have 4,200 employees, and we're one of the largest in the country. We're the 4th largest sheriff's department in the country, and the 2nd largest office in California. We service a lot of people in the county of Riverside.
Yeah, that's incredible. Wow. You have your work cut out for you.
It never makes for a dull day. I have. So there's, unfortunately, we have drownings, and drownings are unfortunately a regular thing for the county of Riverside. It's far too often that we get reports of not only childhood drownings, but adult drownings. And whether it be in pools or in lakes or ponds or anything like that. As a deputy, I did respond to several. Really, the one that is stuck in my head was trying to console and keep the family back while we were trying to revive the child. I've only had one that died that I have responded to, but I have had multiple friends that I wasn't responding to or that I wasn't working at the time that unfortunately had to respond to drownings that were fatal. From our perspective, from a law enforcement perspective, and then my personal perspective being overlapped or intertwined with that law enforcement perspective, it's sometimes hard to imagine for anybody that hasn't experienced a child in a pool or something near disaster, how something like that could happen. And so in our world, sometimes we're critical. We want to label it as neglect, and no one was watching or no one was caring, or there's so many different things of how is that possible. And the reality is it only takes a second, and it's amazing how fast time actually goes, but yet the drowning part only takes seconds. Once the oxygen is no longer in your brain, you're kind of out. There's a potential of just several seconds or less than a minute, and we won't be able to revive that child. And when you realize how fast it can happen, watching a kid is not the answer. Watching a person that doesn't know how to swim is not the answer. It's making them swim. It's making it so they can protect themselves. They can help themselves, because the chances are you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
And it's, I've had a recent incident where in the pool with one of my grandchildren, where just in the jacuzzi. She was running around the outside of the jacuzzi, the step, so she's in the water, and she fell off the step. And I wasn't actually watching her. I'm sitting right there with her. And it was just that I knew there was a difference in sound. It was that constant running around stopped, and I looked, and she had fallen off. And she was going to be fine. She can swim, but it's like if I wouldn't have been paying attention, and technically you could say that I wasn't, because I didn't have my eyes on her the whole time. And this was maybe 2 seconds tops.
Yeah.
But it's like it can happen so fast.
Yeah.
And then even my issue that emotionally is hard for me to even fathom was seconds. It was seconds. And when you realize that it could be that quick, whether it's a grandpa or whether it's a mom or a dad, sometimes we never have our attention undivided on one topic or one child. Especially if you have multiple children, you can't only stare at one. You've got multiple things going on, and 10 seconds goes by fast.
Yeah.
And think of, when your kid learns to crawl, 10 seconds, they've already destroyed 2 cabinets and pulled everything out of there. So scooting across, 20 feet and falling in the pool is nothing. And truly, when you think about swimming pools especially, there's too much noise going on around them. You have pool equipment, you have the water that's splashing anyway. A splash in the water is not an abnormal noise to you, because your body's conditioned to it, because you can hear it already.
Yeah.
So there are so many things that can happen. It puts a different perspective on us going to those calls for service and truly having to sometimes console the family or support the family. The actual drowning, we should be teaching them how to swim when they're born, not waiting until a magic age and saying it's 3 or saying it's 4 and saying at 4 years old I'm going to make sure they swim, when they can fall in your pool within seconds once they start crawling.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's especially when it's so preventable.
Yeah.
So preventable. If they just knew how to save themselves, and truly when they, more than I do, but just getting that natural instinct to either make yourself float or force yourself to swim to the side or whatever it is, once they get that, then it's okay, and they can do it young.
Yeah.
And if we would just approach it that way, rather than that magic number of, I'm going to wait until summer to teach them to swim. Well, they die in the wintertime too.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a mindset that we need to, there are so many things that we can't control, and drowning is one of those things that we can't control. Simply being in a backyard pool, you should never drown in a backyard pool. My personal experience with this, no one can accuse me of neglecting my kids. No one could accuse me of not wanting the best for my kids, being their protector, their provider. And in my head, it's like, I'm going to teach my kids how to swim. I know how to swim. I can teach them how to swim, and everything's going to be fine. So in the process of doing that, I almost lose my younger one because I'm trying to do it by myself. I am not equipped to be teaching all of my kids at the same time how to swim. And it was realizing that how easy that would have been for me, even though, I put him in the water. We were in the water together, and I almost lost him. And then in my work, knowing that this happens far too frequently, and just the fact that it's so preventable, and organizations that are there to help something like this, and I certainly know that every parent can't pay to have someone teach their kid to swim. And if I can help, and I can alleviate that stress or drama or tragedy and pain that could occur if one of the kids drowns, then it just doesn't make sense not to. I can do that. I can make that difference. I can't be there watching them, but I can be there to help the people that are supporting them, teaching them how to swim. And it almost was a no-brainer. I truly, when it comes to kids, whether it's any type of law enforcement involving an investigation or a crime or even just a regular incident or a safety thing with kids are truly victims. They cannot take care of themselves. They rely on adults to take care of them. They rely on adults to teach them. They rely on everything that they get or have or learn has to come from an adult. And we owe it to them to teach them, to be able to help them. It's impossible to teach yourself how to swim. Just throwing a baby in the water, I don't think that's going to come out very good without someone actually teaching them and getting that muscle memory that they know what to do when that happens. I truly do feel like, especially with children, we owe it to them to be able to do this. It's the reality of life, is that it takes money to do anything. And if I have the money and I have the means and I'm able to help because I can't do it physically, then I can do it monetarily, then perfect. It makes you feel good to help others. It truly does. Whether you think it does or not, or you like your money and you like spending your money, that's all fine. But there is something very wholesome and heartwarming about helping someone else, and especially if it's monetary where someone else doesn't have it. There are people that aren't as fortunate as others. We have to acknowledge that. And it is a heartwarming way to not only make yourself feel better, but you're blessing somebody else by allowing them to teach their kids to swim where they may not be able to. They may not even know how to swim themselves, and they don't have access to a pool, but it costs to do these things. Someone has to pay for it. And if we can help others, and if we can bless them in their lives where they're not going to lose their kids to an unfortunate accident, you should want to. Everybody, we can stop going to Starbucks one day a week and give that money to something that truly is beneficial to the betterment of everyone and to the public. And it could be your friend, that you don't even know you're helping. And it's for something like this that can be so tragic. There's nothing for an adult or for a parent that is more tragic and painful than someone younger than you dying. Death is normal for older people, not kids. Kids are not supposed to die. Kids are not supposed to drown. And if we can do anything to prevent that from happening and help organizations be able to reach out and bring more people in to make sure that their kids are safe during the summertime or the wintertime, but summertime especially, because everybody wants to play in the water. It's hot here. And if we can help make our county safer, our city safer, our neighborhood safer, our friends safer, we should do anything we can for that. An instance of drowning, in that it is completely preventable. You shouldn't be waiting until a certain age to get your child accustomed to water or being able to save themselves, at least even for seconds, while you do realize that something happened. This is something that you should be doing from as early as you possibly can, and having conversations with people like you who would that go from babies to, I'm sure, adults, teaching them how to swim. And we all should take it a little bit more serious. It's one of those things where you even a parent or a grandparent who says, my child's safe or my grandchild is safe because they don't live in a house with a pool. Well, your neighbor does, and the neighbor down the street does, and you can never be sure that they're not going to come across the body of water and either not know to not fall in or jump in or somehow get pushed in, or whatever the case may be, a dog, bumping them and forcing them in. And you really do need to take it serious, and at the earliest age possible that you can physically get them there, You should teach them water safety. And I do a lot of things with kids where I don't want, it's not about being afraid. That's not how you should teach kids anything. You teach them respect for things, and you teach them how to deal with things. You don't teach them for fear. Fear doesn't really do anything with us. It's, if something bad happens, how do I get through it? Not just be afraid of it. Because if it's just the fear, if they do get pushed in or fall in, fear is all that takes over them. Yeah. And you can't function in fear. Truthfully, I don't know if psychologically or biologically if that's how it happens, but it's the panic that causes the problem. It's not the water. The water isn't a problem. We can jump in and you and I can be perfectly fine. So the water isn't the issue. It's the fear of the water and the panic, and you have to get them over that as early as possible. So truly, I would just emphasize to everyone, because you don't have a pool doesn't matter. It matters for your neighbors and it matters for your friends. So we should be teaching these kids how to swim from the time they can crawl, really, because they can crawl into a pool. They can crawl, and it doesn't even have to be a big swimming pool. It could be a kiddie pool. But we have to teach them to not be afraid of water. So I just hope that everybody looks at it from a different perspective, because it's easy to just say out of sight, out of mind. From my perspective, knowing that I'm getting notified daily of near drownings or of drownings, it's something real, and you don't want that happening to you for something that could be easily preventable.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.